This episode is sponsored by Property Filter. Find great deals faster.
Hello and welcome to the Financial Freedom Podcast, sponsored by us at Property Portfolio Building. This podcast is designed by real people on their journey to achieving financial freedom, and we'll focus on people who've either already attained it, who are joining us on that journey, or maybe a specialist topic that can help you build your technical knowledge to achieving and maintaining that financial freedom. We hope you enjoy it.
Welcome everyone, and today we're featuring one of our 6-round episodes, and I'm absolutely delighted to welcome Phil Bygrave, who's my co-host and business partner. Welcome, Phil.
Thanks.
So Phil's 43 years old. You live in Bury, North Manchester. You've got 20 years experience in commercial high growth,
Hence the grey.
Sales and things like that, and about 5 years property development experience directly. And as always, we'll start with a bit of an interesting fact about yourself. So this one I got off your wife, Nick, actually. So I know about your love of dogs. I'm not a dog person, so I don't get it necessarily, but I know about your love of dogs. And actually, your dog Cassie moved in with your wife 13 years ago before you actually moved in with her. Is that right?
Yes.
There's a little bit of a background to that.
So you've asked my wife for an interesting fact. Well, the interesting fact is my wife stole my dog. That's how I would phrase it. No. So yes, yeah, you're right. I mean, my love of dogs is absolute. I don't think Owen and Megan will actually watch this, but I think it goes wife, dogs, kid. No, I'm not joking. But no. So Cassie, well, God, just bringing her up. Like, obviously she's not with us anymore, sadly. But yeah. So about 13 years ago. So I was a single man, and I'd had a situation which was a bit of like I don't know if I should share these things, but it's like a bit of a me or the dog type scenario, because we've got this puppy, and I think the puppy was papering over previous cracks or whatever from a relationship that I was in, and I preferred the dog. I'll be honest with you, at that time. So I moved. So we that relationship ended. It
wasn't meant to be.
No. So me and Cassie went and found a house that we lived in, and we lived in. I refer to it in third person like that, I do it all the time, but. And then so Nick I'd known for a long time, right? So we went to college together, and then twist of fate was like a number of years later we found each other again it was actually on a dating site. But yeah, so we've been seeing each other for a little while, and then there was a dog napping, like somebody had stolen a dog close by my house, and obviously Cassie was outside because I was working in Manchester all day. So I rang Nick and said, "Listen, there's been a dog napping close to my apartment. I'm worried about Cassie." And she went, right. So she drove around. It was quite far as well, because where I lived at the time. So she drove to my house, picked up the dog, and the dog never came back. So it's basically, I had no choice. I either had to move in with Nick and the dog, or say goodbye to the dog. She basically stole my dog, but no, that's it.
Well, that's stuck and it worked out. That's the main thing, really, isn't it?
Yeah,
so, right, so moving on to our 6 rounds then. So just to start with then, just tell me a bit about your story. Maybe like a bit about your childhood, and then a bit about your sort of journey to working towards financial freedom. Yeah,
so so 43 years old, obviously. So my childhood was a very loving childhood, and I was very lucky because I'm actually an adopted kid. And the care system is quite brutal for unwanted children. So I was lucky to be adopted really early. I was weeks old. You know what I mean? It was very, very early on. So I never really knew anything different, if you know what I mean. So I've got a brother and sister as well, and they were both adopted from different families and stuff. So
what age was that?
I was weeks old.
Oh, right.
Yeah. 0 is the number. And my mum and dad are very, very religious. So they're Catholic, very religious. My dad was like it's called a Eucharistic minister. He gave out the bread and the wine and stuff at church and stuff. So my primary school was run by nuns. It's quite I don't want to say I've escaped that environment, because I don't want to insult anybody who is deeply religious. But it was very indoctrinated. So in a very much a closed mindset. This is how the world works. So St. Gabriel's High School, which is again at the time was quite a religious high school. It's no longer is, because obviously now you can't have that anymore. And obviously the primary school is no longer run by nuns. They don't run schools anymore. So that was my background. I did all right at school, to be fair. I did A's, B's, and C's, and A's in maths and science and that kind of stuff. So I was quite good, I was sporty, But neither my mum or my dad had ever done like further education. So that I think my dad had like an O level and my mum had done like a secretarial course after school or whatever. So there was no like history and like.
And what did they do for their work?
So my dad was a chartered underwriter, insurance underwriter for Zurich, the big the big insurance company. So he was a commercial insurance underwriter. And my mum was, she was a secretarial type person. She was unbelievable on a typewriter, to be fair. You've never seen anybody move so fast. So they never really understood that sort of further education part. And the career guidance wasn't brilliant. So I ended up doing a sports degree. So I didn't really, because they didn't really have it at school at the time. And we were talking about the Tony Blair over here, where everyone goes to uni. Education. Everybody goes to uni was the chat. So so everybody went to uni. Everybody, it was the first year that we had to pay for university, but it was reasonably low in terms of like the amount. I was like,
I do find that in England, still the aspiration always for the sort of middle class is all to go to university, is not.
I agree to a point, but Owen, who's my son, he went to do A levels, dossed about. It wasn't for him. And we pulled him out, kicking and screaming at the time. Put him into an apprenticeship, and now he's a legal clerk in a barrister's chambers. So it was the right thing for him. It's hard at the time because it's the right thing for them, but he wasn't going to pass his courses anyway. But he was too interested in. He's a bit like me in that respect. He was too interested in other things, but he didn't have the natural gifts that some people have, which is you just get it in the lesson. You don't need to do the homework. You just get it, and then it's in and it stays there. So he needed to do the background work and the practice and the coursework. He never really did that because he was gaming and interested in the female environment. But now he's doing really well. So but the thing with doing a sports degree, I actually moved into the sports space. So I was doing leisure. I was obviously a rugby player at the time and also a footballer. I was very keen on sport and I was very good at it. Played at reasonable standards in most sports. And then so I thought this is definitely for me. So I went into leisure. And I became like a gym manager. I worked for Total Fitness, the big brand, and also De Vere. I worked for De Vere Hotels on their leisure brand, one of their leisure brands. And what I realized is like, once I hit like a certain level, everybody above me was no longer from the gym background. So like the sales director had previously worked for Walker's Crisps. Yeah. The operations director had previously worked for, like, I think it was like at a warehousing company or something like that. So it's like nobody was from a leisure background and there's no money in it. Like, so I was teaching these like fitness classes and stuff. And I was just like, get me out of here. So I was on like, I think my salary was okay. It was like 21K, which back in the day, like 2003 was all right as a graduate, but I was ambitious, much more ambitious than, I would be, you class me as today, but, I was ambitious and wanted to high growth. So I left and joined the recruitment space. Complete change. I thought I'm just going to go out there and learn how to sell because everybody else knew how to sell and I didn't know how to sell. Yeah. So I joined the recruitment space and then did 18 years, 20 years, I think 18, 20 years in the recruitment space. Now recruitment's got a bit of a kick in the last 10 years, but when I started, there was very few. I mean, we're literally talking about faxing CVs here, right? So it was like email was only just coming in really. It wasn't a massive thing. Yeah. So it was easier. And it was more respected because you had to do more background work. It wasn't just look on LinkedIn for 3 people and then I feel like I've just devalued the entire recruitment space. But that's how people think. But it is a very hard industry and it's long days. So for 18 years, I mean, I was doing 10-hour days. 10-hour days for 18 years, and I did really well. And I got to like, I did really well. So obviously, I didn't really have a corporate background, and I went from recruiter through to C-suite. And then ended up running companies and being a board director and so on. So I did really, really well. But those early years, they were fun, but they were hard yards.
Well, you're traveling quite a bit with it and stuff like that.
Yeah, towards the end. And this is really when I made the decision, that I couldn't do the corporate stuff anymore. So my role was, so the recruitment business I worked in was in the energy space. So where'd you get oil and gas? There's some nice locations and there's some pretty rough and ropey locations, right? So wherever it is underground, you don't get to choose. I think I was in Tanzania at the time. Maybe I was in Tanzania. So my role was a group director. Group director was business development, sales. So I'd go around and, whenever they found something, new oil and gas, we were going to build a new rig. Our job was to find the people and mobilize the people. So I'd go there and I'd get all the contracts together and make sure that, everybody was, that we had, all the companies knew that we were coming there and that kind of stuff. So we were in Tanzania. They just found all this gas, and I got a call from my wife, and so my wife has a disability, which has got worse over the last sort of 10 years. She's better now because she's had a number of operations to correct it, but her disability is extreme hypermobility. It's called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and the problem with it is it's like a hypermobility. So have you ever been when you were at school? Was anybody double jointed?
Yeah.
It's not a thing, right? You don't actually have double joints. What happens is you're hypermobile, and your collagen in your joints doesn't keep your joint in the range of motion it should be kept in. So you go beyond the natural range of motion. That's what it means. It's not really a double joint. You don't have two joints. So Nick had that. So the synonymous things that you see is people with flat feet, so that kind of stuff. But she had all these dislocations. She's had over 30 dislocations in her life, so it's really, really serious. It's fun when you're a kid and you can look at my elbow, but it's not fun when you're an adult. And she rang me and she dislocated a hip, and she was on the stairs and couldn't move. And the ambulance, it wasn't an emergency for them, so they were hours and hours away. And I'm in another country and there was nobody around. I didn't know the neighbors.
So that was
I didn't have the neighbor's telephone number, and I was just like,
was that the moment you're like, I can't keep doing this? Or
yeah. And that was the moment. And I'd had enough. I'd had enough internally as well, because that 10 hours a day, and I was managing director of a company. It was a company I was planning on buying, and I just didn't enjoy it. I fell out of love with it, and yeah, that was the moment really that I decided that actually I needed to change, and I moved into property, and that was like I said 5 years ago, and it's the highs and lows of all of those types of things. So moved into property 5 years ago, launched 3 companies. Two still exist, one's gone bust. So, two wins, 1 failure. And then obviously we've got some other companies that we do as SPVs, which just hold companies. So the highs and lows of that over the last 5 years, I wouldn't change it in terms of where we're here today, but certainly that journey's been, and then that journey's been up and down. And it's had when I say one of those companies has failed, I mean like it failed hard, right? So, but the other 2 companies have done really, really well. So
there's lots of learnings though, isn't there? Because obviously we've known each other four and a bit years. We've sort of been involved in a lot together, but there's always just lots of learnings, isn't it? And from the things that go well and not so well, you just need to take them forward.
I think you learn more from failure than success. I think that's a well-known adage, and I think you take a lot away because you actually analyze it a lot more. When you win something or when something's going well, it's easy to be like,
you don't look at it. But maybe we should analyze more as why has that gone well, and keep those things.
Well, we do that, right? Yeah. That's something that we do as in our business now, is something we overanalyze. So at the end of every project, we're analyzing the project and why it's gone well. And even when it's gone well, we look at how we could improve. I think if I unraveled like the failure points and so on and so forth of the previous business, the learnings from that we've implemented into our business only made it more robust.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, I mean, and the thing for me is like if you're working with people who have never had a failure in their life, or they have an overwhelming fear of failure, chances are they're not doing something.
They're not stepping out of the comfort zone or pushing themselves,
or they're restricted by their fear. So I think sometimes it's you have to step out your comfort zone, but you have to be willing to risk stuff. But the problem with risk is it's not just people say it, right? People say risk, I'm willing to take a risk, but are you? Because if that risk comes and bites you, you were willing to take it. Are you then willing to lose it? So that is like, because you might lose it, so. And that can happen, and certainly in that one company that failed, it happened. So, and then the 2 companies that are doing really well, obviously we're taking those learnings into these companies. But you have to be like, when you say take a risk, it can happen. Like, and you need to be aware, you need to be ready for that.
Yeah, and there's risk reward, isn't it? So you can go really badly, it can go really well, and you learn from that. But I'm similar as well, because I look at all of the projects I've done in the last few years, and I think I've encountered most of the bad things that can happen on building projects, and you just have to bring them forward and mitigate that issue as best you can.
I think that's why I agree. And I think that's why your systems that you brought into our company certainly is, which is why it seems so seamless now. Do you know what I mean? Like the projects that we deliver for clients, they're almost like, we laugh about it, but they're spoiled in a way.
Yeah.
So
completely agree.
You know, they're spoiled in a way because it's almost like second nature. Like if you have to spend another 500 quid, they're like, what? You know, just because you have to repair some damp that we didn't discover or whatever. You know, it's like, you're like, what? Why? We've never had this before. And I'm like, yeah, but that's because you've been spoiled in a way. If you'd have done, you know, building projects yourself, you know.
Yeah. It's sometimes, some of our clients have done it before and they've had the really bad problems.
And that's why they come to us and go,
it's unbelievable what you've done. And then others who might be the new one, they just take it that, all these projects just go like that. And if there's a little cost, that it's a bit of an issue, but it's not really, is it? Because things can really go wrong.
So that brings us to today, really. So now today, the story is property developer, lettings agency owner, property holder, and, you know, husband, work at home, can look after people. Children are doing well. Megan's 16, so, you know, deal with that. You've got 2 daughters all under 4, so you've got the good time at the moment.
1 daughter, 1 son, but 2 under 3.
Seb, of course. 1 daughter, 1 son. So 2 under 4 though, and the 16-year-old girl. Oh goodness me,
Different.
Last 3 years. Like, really, what I would say to anybody is really enjoy that 3 to 10-year-old age profile. It's a really wonderful time in your life, and everything's going well, and you think it's swimmingly well.
Yeah.
And you will always love your children, but sometimes you don't like them. No.
So question number 2, what is financial freedom to you? Because obviously people have different interpretations and definitions of what that is.
Different. Yeah.
And what's your sort of overall long game or long-term plan?
So it's funny because obviously one of the things that we do is our brand is property portfolio building, right? So source, build, manage by invitation only. That's our brand, and our objective is to help our clients achieve financial freedom. So we ask this question. You know, it's one of the first questions that we ask, and almost every single one of them goes 10 grand a month.
Yeah, it's
right.
It's very common in the property circles to say 10 grand a month, isn't it?
Yeah, so 10 grand a month. I'm like, well, what does that mean? You know, so 10, is that net, gross? What, you know, is that after all costs? So, but for me, so I've always had a bit of a plan, right? So my plan is A, pay for my life, and then B, make some profit, right? So that was the first stages. So financial freedom to me is the first stage is have my assets pay for my life, right? So, and by that, I set myself a more realistic goal. So what I did is I just added everything up, right? My mortgage cost, my life cost, my bills cost, you know, everything that I had. And then I looked to do 2 things from a financial freedom point of view. So everyone's always talking about making money, right? Sometimes you also have to look at saving money, okay? So I had an expensive car. I don't know if you remember the blue Mercedes I had. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was nice, right?
Yeah.
It's gone. You know, it's gone. Sold it. Yeah. And I've got a 2015 Jag, right? So the first thing I did was like, look to balance those 2 things. So I wanted to make money from my assets, and then I wanted to reduce my overall cost. So that was those 2 things. And we renegotiated all our contracts. So things like, you know, Sky, we were paying 120 quid for Sky. We now pay 40 quid. I know it sounds like, well, that's not going to change your life, but you do that 10 times over and it does change your life, you know? So financial freedom to me was reduce those costs to a level, work out what that cost is to live, add an inflation I didn't add the recent inflation rates, but add an inflationary rate over the years, and then continue to increase my asset base to minimum to hit that number. So I think my original number was like 3,248. I live in the north. You know, for anybody in the south, apologies. Yours is going to be higher just because you live in the south, but I live in the north. So I think that's how much it cost me to live. So that was my first goal, to get my assets to pay for that. And obviously achieving that was a big milestone. And then that was kind of like, well, I've got my cash flow now. So what do I do next? You know, so obviously then we've got the development company and the lettings agency. And, you know, I look at wealth as a hierarchy. So my financial freedom to me is replacing those assets with better assets as well. So the reason
what do you mean by better though?
So let me tell. So better. Well, better. An asset to me is something that pays you while you sleep, right? So that's the Warren Buffett overnight thing, right? So you find a way to make money while you sleep, or you'll work till you'll be working until you die. And I think that was his quote or something like that. So for me, it's the assets that I have now. A lot of them are things like multi-income assets, high noise assets, so like HMOs or whatever. So, and they're great assets to start on that cash flow goal, because that means you can accelerate, and HMOs certainly accelerate much faster than any other asset, because you get both cash flow and capital growth on those things. So that was my plan, was to go after them, and obviously we do that for clients. That's the first level. But my longer term plan is I wouldn't want to pass those down to my children. Like, I think in our agreement we have, like, if I pass away or whatever, or you pass away or whatever, we're not even passing it to our wives, right? We do the capital exchange or whatever.
The equity though.
Yeah, the equity change. Yeah. So we don't want to.
So the money's there, but not necessarily to keep the asset forever for
exactly
generations. And
exactly.
Like that.
So the plan would be to have those assets to do that, but then make additional profit to then invest in what I would be happy to pass down generationally, which is slow, boring, assets that I just never hear about. Those assets that if something goes wrong, you're literally like, how has that happened? Whereas with like a high revenue asset, you are taking additional risks. So very low risk, very low, very medium return. Not going to say low return, but very medium return, long yielding, easy to pass down asset. So that's my plan. So I've achieved goal 1. We're now on goal 2. Achieve goal 3. So I'm on that journey to do that. That's what financial freedom means to me. Is then that goal will then be to have those assets pay for that initial number, and then again after that is then make more and increase those assets so I can live comfortably. So first goal was, I think on my phone it goes off at 9 a.m. every morning, which is $3,000 is what you need, $6,000 is what you want, and $9,000 makes life worth living. So it goes off on my phone as a reminder every morning at 9 a.m.
Yeah.
Just to remind me why I'm doing this.
It's a good scale. So what are your actual thoughts about retirement then?
Yeah, I don't think I'll ever retire. But again, I never thought I would move away from the recruitment space because I was doing so well. So I think you change during life, right? So your different phases of life have different things. So I moved away for more of a lifestyle. And that's a good thing that you can do when you're doing asset-based stuff, is you can also work on a more lifestyle basis. However, as we both know, we work quite hard. So, that's choice, right?
Yeah.
We choose to do that. We don't have to do that. So retirement to me is just being able to choose what I want to do, right? So it's not necessarily something that I will, I'm not looking to sail off into the sunset, and just sit on a beach sipping margaritas, because I can't, I'm terrible on holiday anyway. Even on holiday, I'm trying to be productive. So I'm up in the morning doing 8,000 steps before it gets too hot. I can't do my steps. I'm that annoying person. So, retirement to me probably isn't on the cards. And I think one of the things that, when my dad retired, certainly, he went through a real mental challenge when he actually stepped away.
Very common, isn't it?
Yeah. So he lost a lot of his purpose.
Yeah,
and that's a big thing for me. Is I learn, that's one of my key learnings in life, is looking at my dad, who's this stoic guy. He's very religious. He's very loving. He's very warm. He's the most gentle. But I mean, we're very different, right? So I'm gentle, but underneath, he's gentle on the surface. He's a very gentle man, and in a way, seeing him go through those challenges was a big wake up call. I don't ever want to lose purpose, and I think having a purpose is a really important thing. But I don't think my retirement purpose will be different to my current stage of life.
Yeah, always needs some sort of. And have you read the book Ikigai?
Ikigai. Yeah. Yes, I have. Yeah. So they're talking about the blue zones, right?
Yeah, it's a Japanese community that have really longevity, isn't it? And one of their key things is purpose, isn't it?
It's a great book. Yeah.
Obviously
Ikigai.
diet and things like that as well, but the purpose that they have in their retirement age is what keeps them going more than anything.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Stop the podcast now. This episode is sponsored by Property Filter. Property Filter is the #1 property tool for today's property professional. It brings in all the data points and sources from all the property portals and auction sites into one convenient place. Then you have the option to overlay all the clever strategies found in the Property Filter blueprint to find motivated sellers faster. Now, we use it on a daily basis. It saves us over 80% of our time when looking for properties. And if that sounds like something that you want in your lives, please go to register.property-filter.co.uk/PPB, which is the discount code for this podcast. You will get 2 weeks free and a discount on your first month. That's it from me. Back to the podcast.
Right, good stuff. So question 3 then. So what is a tip? I mean, I sort of know, but I don't really know. But what is a typical day for you? Because I know you have a bit of a routine that you like to stick to. Because sometimes I'm like really hitting the hard actions, and I ring you up, and you're at the gym, or you're walking your dog, or that sort of stuff. So can you just run through with me what is your typical day?
Yeah, I'm the annoying person, right? Who has a routine, So, but that's for me because I'm very easily distracted. Not some people aren't. I am. So, I have to have those routine-based things. Otherwise, I'm a sales guy at heart. So I can just like flip from one thing to another. So my routine is really, really simple. And I get up in the morning. So my current routine is I get up. It's around 6:45. So it doesn't stay. It's not. I'm not a 5 a.m. club or anything like that.
Yeah.
Because you're sending me actions like you said, like at like 7:30, and I'm like, that's too early for me.
Yeah,
so
that's my prime time. I like key stuff that I'm doing.
Yeah, but you got 2 children under 4, mate. So you have to do that time, right?
I have no alarm clock, but I do have an alarm that wakes me up at about 6 a.m. every morning.
Yeah. So I don't. Yeah. Well, exactly. I don't have an alarm clock, which is, and my wife jokes about this, right? Which is, how do you do that? So I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's inbuilt in me, but if I go for a nap, as an example, because I very rarely nap, maybe on a weekend, on a Sunday, sometimes I'll go and have a lie down on the couch. If I say it's going to be half an hour nap, it's half an hour. So I go to bed, and if Nick sometimes wants to watch TV or something, I know some people don't like do that, have TVs in the room or whatever, but we do, because obviously she has to lie flat sometimes, there's disability and stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes she wants to watch TV, and I'm like, at 10 o'clock, I'm gone. I'm asleep. So, but 6:45 in the morning, I'm up. I'm out the door between 6:45 and 7. 7 o'clock, I'm doing a weighted walk, so I use a vest. So it's like at the moment, I'm on, it's about 18 kilograms. So I do about 7,000 steps with my vest on. Sometimes 6, sometimes 7, depending on how I'm feeling. When I get back, I then feed the dogs, and then go to the gym. So, and then I go do some weights or whatever, and then I get back about. I only do like 30 minutes in the gym. It's like 5 exercises, 30 minutes, bang, 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 bang. And then I'm back about 8:45, ready to rock. And then I do some stoicism, which is a form of meditation. It's a book. I don't know. I can't remember the name of the book.
The Daily Stoic.
The Daily Stoic. Yeah. That's it. Yeah, that's it. I can't remember the name of the book. So every day I do like a 10-15 minute just thought process, and then by 9 a.m. I'm ready to rock. Do you
think all that makes you more productive throughout the day, or more efficient? Or
me, yes, definitely, because if I didn't do those things, so like when it gets disrupted, so I've been disrupted this week. Actually, it's a good example. So I've had to drop out the gym stuff because I actually had a tooth out, and it got infected. As I mentioned, this tooth got infected.
Yeah, you were in a lot of pain, weren't you?
Oh God, it was horrendous. So I was unable to sleep at 10. I was asleep at like midnight or whatever. So, but the two things I maintained is my walking and my stoicism. So I've been in the gym because I wasn't allowed to do the strenuous stuff. And I felt dreadful all week, just that I felt more tired. I haven't had my routine. I've been a bit all over the place. So yeah, I mean, it's very important to me that I have that, because when I'm ready to go, I'm like, yeah, here's my plan. I'm up and I'm moving and that kind of stuff. And I'm very lucky that, because I work from home, that nobody really expects me to be available before 9 a.m. Right? And I try and say,
it's only when business partners annoy you or something.
Have children, yeah. So normally it's like between 9 and 10. I'm also looking at how can I'm trying to improve the business between that time as well. So my first hour is, how do I improve the business? So it's either a challenging conversation, or it's a system, or it's something that I haven't done with a client or something like that. So, but when so they're really impactful. They're really impactful things. But so when I don't have those things in place, when I've not done my processes, that first hour is gone. I tend to just go straight to my email, or I'm like, pick up the phone or something, and I don't do that prime time for my company.
Yeah,
and the company suffers in that way. And that's because of the routine. So yeah, the routine is very important to me. So, but I get, and my wife was last week. She went, my name's Phil. I'm so productive. I'm up doing the gym and the walking and stuff. So she's completely counter to me. She's like a counterbalance. So she'll like, I'm finishing the gym. I've done my stoicism, and she's getting out of bed. It's completely counter to what I do. But I think you have to have that balance in life.
You do need that balance there, yeah.
So she's like, stay in bed. Don't do that. So where I'm
yeah. No, good stuff. So round 4 then. Just want to know, like, what are you most proud of in your journey to sort of where you're at the moment with business and financial freedom and all those sort of setbacks you've had and stuff like that? Like, what are you proudest about?
I think my proudest moments, like, it's difficult because pride comes before a fall, doesn't it? But, so from a pride perspective, there's certain things that we've done. So when I was on the property entrepreneur program, I was going through the business issue as well. The one business going well, the other business not doing so well, and we raised £150,000 for 2 charities. Now, is the head of fundraising for those 2 charities for that event. That's one of the proudest things that I've done. So I know it's not a work-based thing, but so that was a walking thing. And the two charities were the Lucy Rainier Foundation and Strong Men. And if you've never seen those 2 charities, they really do impact people. And because the one thing I recognize is that the mental health stuff in the UK is really poor. You can't actually get help. A lot of the charities are just raising awareness. See, they don't actually do anything. So if you ring them, say, "Oh, we're not qualified to do that. We're just raising awareness." So what does that mean, right? So, but these 2 charities actually engage people who are struggling, right? So that's one of the proudest things I've done. That we did. They chose those 2 charities. I was part of the committee that chose those 2 charities, and we over delivered on the promises. So they got 75 grand each. That funded both those charities for an entire year to do what they needed to do, which is very, very proud of that. And then the second thing is the second thing that I'm most proud of is, and it's hard to say this really because I know that it's hard to say it, but it's having what would have a business that failed would have stopped a lot of people in their tracks.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Right. In that year, we raised the funds for the charity. We launched our networking event. We set up a new business plan to counter it, and we move forwards. And in that interim period, we've done very well, and in continuing that march towards both financial freedom but also being to help others, because that's ingrained in me. From my like I mentioned, my mum and dad were always help others. So, and in the sales environment, although I was helping people find jobs and helping people fill roles and so on, never really felt that. Yeah. Whereas now I do feel that. And
that was easy when we were talking about our mission statement the other week, wasn't it? It was...
helping people to achieve financial freedom, and I'm extremely proud of that. At the same time, I feel extremely bad about my company that went under. At the same, but on the flip side, I've got this learning process, and this I'm a different person now. I'm much calmer. I'm not as ambitious. I know that sounds silly because we've got this company that's doing really well, but I don't want to rip up trees, and I don't want to.
You want the lifestyle
want to dominate the world.
Is that the way?
Yeah. Whereas that company was a bit more like ripping up trees and dominating the world. It was, it was very, very high revenue. It was very high reward, and it was high risk.
Yeah.
Well, it was medium risk. It should have been medium risk, but it ended up being high risk. So now it's just making sure that people are a bit calmer, a bit more settled, and making sure that they're making the right decisions. And I think that's something I'm very proud of as well, is that people are working with us in that frame of mind, knowing that they're in safe hands. That's the thing that I think is.
What are your thoughts about karma and doing good things, you get good things back, and those sort of things, or doing the right thing, you'll come back your way and things like that?
Absolutely. I mean, like, I'm not religious, which is coming from the background I have is a thing, right? So, but karma, I do believe in. I think it's more the law of attraction more than anything else, rather than it being purely a mystical thing. I'm not very kumbaya as a guy. I'm a practical guy.
Yeah, likewise.
So, but karma itself is like, it's more the law of attraction. So if I'm good to you, you'll be good to me. Or if I'm good to people and people see me being good to people, then people would be good to me by return.
Yeah, I see it similar way. Like, you do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah.
Then other people are going to do the same or help you out. So simple with a property deal. If you do what you say and get it done when you say with an agent, they'll bring you another deal.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Like, as simple as that. You're just doing what you
and you deliver on what you promise. And we take things personally, right? That's the thing. It's like, and the things that are out of our control sometimes in the property space, because there's lots of grey areas, right? Lots of grey areas, especially when it comes to things like surveying and solicitors and things that are out of our control. We take those things personally, and
or they're partly out of our control. Like we can control a certain respect and choose the team and those sort of things.
Yeah.
Do everything we can, but there's a certain percentage that's out of our control, isn't it? Sometimes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think one of the things that we take away from that is like the calm is there. So I use the examples where perhaps a surveyor's given us the wrong appraisal value, or a solicitor's got something wrong, or an architect has given us a drawing that doesn't suit what we want. We don't take that. Do you know what I mean? A lot of people would just sit back and go, "Oh, right, that's it."
Yeah.
So from a karma perspective, it's like, well, because we've always been the case of, well, we're willing to go further than anybody else to help people to achieve their goals. We pick up the phone, we get things done, and
hard conversations, aren't they?
It's
sometimes
difficult conversations. It's going, it's I mean, some of the challenging conversations we've had in our industry, is way above our pay grade, in terms of our size as a company.
Yeah.
And some of the things that we've achieved, other companies will not achieve, and it's because we're willing to do that. It's been able to ring the owner of a surveying business and just going, look, this is a problem because you're, and we don't want to make it a problem.
Yeah.
I don't just want to complain about something. I want to talk to you.
We want to talk about it and come back with real discussion points about it and things like that. Come to a solution.
Yeah. And then helping people, like most of our clients, I'd say about 70% of our clients are overseas. So helping them achieve what they achieve. What they achieve from afar is a big thing. And we wouldn't survive.
And being trustworthy, isn't it? Because
absolutely,
you're that far away. You really need to trust the people on the ground.
100%. And we wouldn't survive without that trust element. We wouldn't survive. So I think that's because we're willing to go those extra yards, is that karma comes back. And that's a good example of that, I think.
Yeah. Excellent. Round 5 then. So what's the best bit of advice you ever got? And this could be like from someone directly or from a reading or something like that. Something that's like some bit of advice that's really changed your life and your perspective on things.
I mean, there's so many, isn't there, to choose from. It's very, very difficult to pick one thing in terms of the advice that you've got that you get given. I think the quote that I gave earlier is the one that always comes back to my mind, which is either find a way to make money while you sleep, or you'll work until you die.
Yeah, I know the one you're talking about.
That is the one that sticks in my mind all the time. Because, and this is why I'm in property, because property is the only, well, it's not true, but it's one of the only asset classes that can do both a return on investment and a capital growth. So even though you might get 7%, 8%, 10%, 15% return on investment, your capital growth might also add 7% to that value. So, all of a sudden you got
I worked this out the other day actually, because if you're getting 7% growth across the full amount and you've only got a small amount of money left in it.
Yeah.
If you're getting a 12% return on cash flow, you might be getting 40 or 50% overall. I worked out, and there's no other asset class that does really
not to that value. Yeah. So, which is why we do it, and that's really the one that sticks in my mind. But I mean, there's been also, you don't know what you don't know, which is one of Simon Zucci's, obviously one of our mentors. You don't know what you don't know, and that piece of advice, it's so like multi-layered.
Yeah,
because it says it's basically giving you the advice that you never stop learning, right?
Yeah.
So at 43, to work out how old I was then. At 43, I don't know everything, and it's being teachable and being willing to learn and take.
Yeah, and having the self-awareness that you always learn, and you're going to be wrong about things. Or
oh God, the number of times I do something, say something, I think I'm absolutely certain, and then go away and come back and go, actually ring that person back and go, do you know what? I'm probably wrong there.
Yeah. Put your hand up.
Yeah, put my hand up and just say, do you know, I'm happy to take that feedback. So those two really is the thing. It's so if to summarize those things is, if you don't have anything that pays you, and most people don't, right, which is the scary fact. Most people don't have anything apart from their job, so they are their own asset.
Yep.
And the problem is, like, at 43, I'm in middle-aged, like in the middle-aged bracket. Still early middle-aged, but in the middle-aged bracket, or maybe in the middle, so early to mid of that bracket.
I think you're pushing middle up.
Oh, thanks, mate. Yeah, cheers for that. Have I got a high and tight haircut? What do you mean? It's grey. It's trying to hide the grey. It's not doing a good job. I think if you don't have those assets, and most people don't, then they're reliant on two things. They're reliant on you, and I already feel like stuff's breaking, right? So I can't play rugby anymore. You know, I've had to have 4 teeth removed in 6 months because my wisdom teeth impacted on my teeth next door. It's like stuff starts to go wrong. So you've got to recognize that. And then they say, oh, well, I'll get a pension. Yeah, but it's terrible. Yeah. You know, so
industries and businesses change though, because people say I got the security of the job, but that business could be gone tomorrow. So
if you die tomorrow, your business will replace you within 3 months.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's no job security in that respect, right? So unless you own the business and you've got some kind of insurances and that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's that's the bit. It's making sure that you are you can also insure yourself as well, which is we talked about recently. I mean, we need to step up a little bit on that ourselves, but certainly have assets that pay you that isn't you. That's that's the first one. So make money while you sleep, and then the second one is just absorb. You know, read all the things that matter. And don't get distracted. You know, so you don't know what you don't know. Don't get distracted by shiny pennies. Don't get distracted. Yeah. So just, you know, that second one is like, you don't know what you don't know. Learn as much as you can and educate yourself. You know, that's a big.
That helps a bit with longevity, I believe, as well. If you continue learning and like developing, and like you said, with the purpose, and it keeps you sharp, doesn't keep your mind sharp. And I completely agree with that as well.
Cool.
Excellent. So final round then. So what we do is we get as you know, we get a question off our previous guest to bring forward to another guest, basically. So I'll ask you to do it once we're finished here. But the question I've got for you is it's in relation to AI.
Right. Okay.
So will AI, in your mind, have a net benefit or a net negative effect on society in the next 5 years?
The next 5 years.
Yeah. So I suppose
that's probably a short time frame.
That's a short term AI development, I suppose, isn't it?
I think it's going to have. I think it's a short-term negative, long-term benefit, right?
Yep.
Because this is that we live in the technological revolution. This is a revolution. I mean, in 1980, when I was born, to today, the technology has increased massively. It's all down to transistors. If you ever look into transistors, by the way, amazing. What an amazing piece of kit. That's what drives everything. I would recommend anybody go and read into that. But from an AI perspective, it's going to completely revolutionize how we work, because it's a model that is no longer just scripted. It's a learning model. It's something that can improve. And therefore, anything that is done that we do now that can be improved upon, that requires those technologies, and look at what we use technology for now, will be improved by AI. The problem is we're not ready for it.
Yeah.
Right, as a race of people.
So if there's good and bad from it, is it the fact that maybe the bad things people can do easier now because lawmakers haven't caught up with it and things like that? Is that
100%? So the people that are reliant on some forms of income, as an example, are no longer going to have those income streams, because AI is cheaper, easier, and better at certain tasks than a human being, because we're more fallible, right? So we're more likely to make mistakes. So if you can replace, therefore, somebody who's cheaper, easier, and less likely to make mistakes, you're going to do that as an organization. What that means is, from a race point of view, we can leap forwards but in the same time, it's a pain point. You know, it's like when they closed the mines, right? Lots of people went through lots of pain points at that time, and that was around the sort of like 80s time when Thatcher was in charge and so on and so forth, because we were no longer mining. So that was a massive revolutionary change, and we went from a productive.
That's a fair point. There's been a lot of these revolutionary changes in different industries
people
in the last few years.
Not prepared for it at all. So, and people went from having these manually driven jobs to all of a sudden that's no longer available. And you can see it. So if you watch the documentary Welcome to Wrexham with Ryan Reynolds and Rob McInerney, who've taken over that football club, it's an old mining town, and you can see in the history of that, and you can feel it. You can feel it in the town. And what they're doing now is the technology of having a Disney-driven Hollywood person in that town is bringing things to that town. And we moved away from being this productive mill-based, coal-based country. The mill was the industrial revolution, don't forget.
Yeah.
And then we're in the secondary side, and now we're in the technological revolution. It's going to replace jobs. So we moved away from those things into more of a service-driven industry. So, and I think that's where the future is that if you serve something, you're going to be okay. because people buy from people at the end of the day. So if you're in a service-driven industry where you can't be, you can't be replaced as a human, you're okay. If you do something which is manual or something that can be replaced, unless you're then going to be the person driving the technology, to make sure the technology is improving all the time, I think that's a big risk.
Yeah, and on that point as well, you're talking about the change. So like obviously being in Manchester at the moment, industrial revolution, center point of the world. So
we just bought a mill.
We've just bought. We've gone through the process, aren't we, with planning and stuff. But so obviously there was the agricultural age, and that moved into industrial revolution. So in that period, that transition of change, it would have been massive as well. Maybe that's something
I hope AI helps farmers. Because the farming industry has been kicked to bits, right?
Yeah.
And I hope that they get to be able to streamline their processes. But it will be the people who own the farms, like the people who work in the farms. When you get technology that can actually farm through AI, well, you're not going to need those people anymore. So there's still going to be the people down the chain that suffer the most.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really key thing. At the same time, and I actually did a YouTube on this. It was what happens when the robots take over, right? So I actually did a YouTube on this.
Right.
It's available on our YouTube. I believe what will happen is the whole point of doing this is that we become less manual as a race, right? So at the first time there was a recommendation in the last election. I think it was Labour that put forward something called a minimum income. Yeah, and the big tech people are also, so like Zuckerberg and people like that, and I think Musk's also talks about this, have also stated that this should be a thing that is being considered as a national thing. Because what that means is it takes away national minimum wage for earning and replaces it and benefits and replaces it with a minimum income. So what is the point in having this if it doesn't make life easier? What is the point of having this AI if we can't live better, and in more tune with our surroundings and our environment? There's no point in it, right? So that minimum income, I think we will actually see more of that, talk about that in the next 5 to 10 years, about people will all receive a minimum income because
it's going to be a transition, isn't it, from people in the labour force that are going to be replaced by there's going to be a transitional.
Yeah, but if it's no longer needed, then we're achieving that goal, aren't we? We're achieving that labour reduction goal, that manual goal. When we want people to be healthier, so we'd rather, like if you look at the NHS versus the benefits system, if you increase people's health and decrease their requirement, but also increase their income, then you're going to find a balance somewhere on efficiencies. So I think that minimum income is actually a positive. I think that's going to come in, and then it's like the Simpsons and Star Trek. They've predicted pretty much everything that's going to happen, right? So I don't know how they did it, right?
Well, I saw the Simpsons one with Trump going up the escalator. Have you seen that? It's like even the Seinfeld's there is that was an interesting prediction.
Yeah. So but Star Trek is also a merit-based environment, right? But they've also predicted a lot of things have actually happened. So I'm a big Trekkie. But they're merit-based. So they go and because everything's provided for them. They've got food's provided. Accommodation is provided and everything's there. So the only reason people do something is for that merit, for that purpose. And I do think that's gonna be something. I think not in our lifetime, but certainly in the future. Certainly in the future we'll be driven more on merit than we will on capitalism, which I think is a great thing for us as
interesting. We can re-listen to this in 5 years and see.
See how I'm probably completely wrong.
So some of your predictions are coming out. Yeah. Right. Well, thank you very much. That takes the end of our 6 rounds. Obviously, before you leave, I want to get a question for you for our next guest as well. Yeah. To carry forward, but it's been an absolute pleasure. I've actually learned a lot from you considering I talked to you probably day in, day out for the last 4 years. So thank you very much.
Good stuff. Thanks for having me.
Cheers.
Thank you once again for joining us on the Financial Freedom Podcast, sponsored by us at Property Portfolio Building. If you want to get in touch with us about today's podcast or any of the learning topics that we've gone through today, you can email us at podcast@invest-prop.co.uk or get in touch with us with whichever your social media platform of choice is. If you think you would add value to us as a guest on this podcast, you can please get in touch and let us know what you would be able to talk to us about. Other than that, we wish you well on your financial freedom journeys. And once again, thank you for joining us and we'll see you on the next one.